Hello, everybody. I'm JP Hervis, and I'm joined by the managing partner of the Haggard Law Firm, Michael Haggard. And in this episode, we're going to discuss drowning, near drowning, drowning prevention, and how the coronavirus pandemic has actually impacted the number of drownings that we've seen. And to have this important discussion, we're joined now by Christina Canavan. Christina and her husband suffered the most unspeakable tragedy when their two toddlers fell into a pool on Thanksgiving Day years ago. Her son Layton lost his life that day, and her son Jaxson suffered a severe brain injury, and he eventually lost his life due to an infection. But since then, she has turned tragedy into a triumph to protect other families, other children. Christina has become a swim safety advocate and a certified infant swimming resource instructor. And Christina, thanks a lot for taking the time out to speak with us, and it's amazing what you're doing. Tell us a little bit more about your role as an infant swimming resource instructor.
I got involved with it after the boys' accident. I started going with a friend of mine and watching the lessons. I was actually a few weeks pregnant with my now 3-year-old. 3-year-old. Wow, it's crazy. So anyways, I got involved with that, and a lot of the instructors were like, oh, like your story would be so impactful. Like you should definitely look into it. So I applied. And I waited and waited and waited. And 3 years later, they called and I did an interview and I got accepted into the program. So I went ahead, I did my training, and I did 7 weeks. It's really 6 weeks, but I chose to do 7 weeks in the water. Shortly after I got out of the water is when Jaxson did pass. And then in September of 2019, I started my first session. And so pretty much what ISR is survival swim lessons. There's several protocols, safety for families, for the kids, for us. Lessons are 5 days a week. They're 10 minutes a day. For approximately 6 weeks. And what that does is any child under the age of 1 or that is not walking learns to roll back and float if they were to reach the water alone, and scream or cry or whatever for help. And then children that are walking would learn to swim and float. And then as they get a little bit older, depending on the child's skills, they would learn to swim, float, swim.
Yeah, Christina, it's amazing what you're doing. I'm so proud of you. And you know, we were talking about how as we get into April, we get into these warmer months, that even though we think of South Florida, you can swim 12 months a year, this is really when we see the uptick in drownings and near drownings. You know, not only in single family home, but apartment complexes. And what concerns me now is everyone with a stay-at-home order, kids have never been closer to water than they've ever been because they're at their apartment complexes, they're at houses, we see them out riding their bikes by canals and those kind of things. And unless they're in a course like yours, my advice to parents is as much as you can to obviously watch them. But the problem is you can't watch your kids 24 hours, 7 days a week. And so, one thing that we try to get out there is layers of protection. That if you're in an apartment complex, make sure that there's a gate around the pool, that it has self-closing and self-latching locks. Same thing if you're in a residential pool home. Please make sure you have a fence around that pool, or you have an alarm that is working, that is operational, not turned off, because people get upset with the chime, because at this point in time, everybody's at home. And those are things that keep me up at night handling as many of these drowning cases as we've handled at the Haggard Law Firm, that, it's bad enough when something can happen during a Saturday and Sunday. When you're talking Monday through Sunday and homeschool and all these different things that families are going through, it's really something that concerns all of us in this arena of drowning prevention. And what you're doing, Christina, with these saves so many lives, but not everybody can get to you. So there are kids out there who are going to struggle when they come into aquatic situations.
And Christina, to Mike's point, especially we're talking Monday through Sunday now, as opposed to the weekend or maybe just a little bit after school. what new dangers? I know that you've discussed with us before that drownings are already up and it's tied to the pandemic. Talk a little bit more about that.
So I think one of the biggest things is, like you guys said, like we are at home right now. Like me, myself, I have 4 children. I have 2 doing homeschool, and then I have 2 little ones. Like Mike said, you cannot watch your child 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that's just the truth. And anybody that thinks that's not the truth, well, that's fine, but it's the truth. You can't watch your kid 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I think, we need to start with educating our children too, our older children. We need to let them know the importance of our layers of protection. We need to let them know that supervision is always number one, but supervision does fail. And when supervision does fail, we need to go to doors and window alarms. And when I say doors and window alarms, I mean actual doors and window alarms that are not battery operated, that you can't turn off. For instance, in our home, when our doors open, it tells us which door or which window is opening at all times. And it's loud and you can hear it. So doors and window locks, pool fence. Pool fence is such a big deal. People think, oh, they're ugly, or they don't think they need them because their child can swim. But the reality is that even children that can swim can drown. So you need to have a pool fence. You need to have those layers in place. Another thing that people forget to think about, even just like visiting family members and stuff like that, doggie doors. Children get out of doggie doors. Like, if it's big enough for a dog to get out of, it's big enough for a baby to get out of, or maybe even a toddler. So those need to be closed or take them away. CPR is a big one. You want to know CPR. You always need to know CPR. You need to get oxygen going as soon as possible and a heartbeat back. And then you have your last layer of protection, which is where I come in, and that is your survival swim lessons. But like I was saying, as far as so we need to educate our children on that, the older children, because with them being home now too, where we have more people in the house. So even if I go and I lock the door, it's so easy for my other child to come and unlock the door and not think about the little babies that are in the home that could potentially get out and go to the water. And I just want to add in there, as far as the pool fences go, self-latching. I would always recommend a self-latching pool fence. It closes as soon as you open it. It closes back, and I just think it's safer. But like I said, any fence is better than no fence. Swim lessons, as far as that goes, any lesson is better than no lesson. When it comes to looking ahead in civil court, when you're dealing with drowning cases and near fatal drowning cases, how does the scope of this order change for apartment complexes, homeowners associations, when hotels open back up? Because I know that you had discussed with me earlier that one of the things that we're seeing in some of the increases in drownings is parents are trying to entertain their children, or complexes want to help if their common area pool is closed, and they're just buying inflatable pools, and everybody thinks that's not a big deal because it's only a foot of water, but a child can still drown in a foot of water. So in the long term, how do you think the pandemic will maybe shift what the foreseeability or what the responsibilities will be when it comes to protecting children from drowning?
Yeah, well, one thing we always start with is that, in America, the second leading cause of accidental death is child drowning for children under 5. I mean, if you think about that, that's about, that's only behind car accidents nationally. In Florida, it's number 1. You can imagine Florida, California, Texas. Drowning is the leading cause of accidental death. So then when you start with that premise, a problem that's happening right now is apartment complexes are closing their pools. And they should be, because people shouldn't be in a pool when you're supposed to be social distancing. The problem is, how are they closing those pools? We've had several cases so far where someone put a chain link lock around a pool that when you open it, it opens to 12 inches. So all little kids have gotten through those into pools. Okay, and have drowned. So the problem that's happening in short term, people are closing their pools, but not correctly. I mean, those things should be locked tight, and there's no way you can enter into them. Second thing that's going on right now, we talked about canals a little bit, kids are riding their bikes. They're going to places they really haven't gone before. And a lot of our canals in South Florida, because we flood easily, have slopes that are illegal. And kids get down there and they lose their footing and they get in that water and they're not getting back up. So that's two problems that's happening right now, during this pandemic. The other issues, like you're talking about, people are trying to adjust. They're buying inflatable pools. They leave water in there, and that's just as dangerous as a bathtub, as a pool, or anything like that. So, there's a lot of issues. And look, we all love water. It's one of the greatest recreational activities in the world, but it's got to be met with heavy skepticism. It's dangerous. Kids are attracted to it. They've always been attracted to it. And that's why we always go back to those layers of protection, everything like that. So as people try to entertain and do different things, just like Christina said, you start with supervision, but we know supervision is going to break down. Go through our layers of protection, whether they be fences, whether they be door alarms, and those type of things that are critical to preventing drowning.
Children can drown in as little as inches of water or an inch of water. Children drown in toilets. They drown in buckets. They drown in bathtubs. They drown any body of water a child can drown in. So when parents are home and they're leaving these inflatable pools up, or it rains and there's a bucket and their child's out playing, they need to be sure that they're dumping the water out. The water always needs to be emptied. All layers of protection need to be in place, not one or the other, like all of them. All of them need to be in place. And I truly believe that will be the way to prevent drownings, is all layers of protection being in place. Drowning actually is the leading cause of accidental death in children ages 1 to 4. I believe that the DCF reporting was up 14 drownings here in Florida, or not in Florida, in Florida alone, in 3 months. So, I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's in one state. And Texas last year led drownings with like 89 or 87 drownings, and we had, I think, 60 something down here. So between two states, we had over 100 drownings. To find an instructor near you, you can always go to infantswim.com. You can put in your zip code, a mile radius, and find an instructor near you. Finding an instructor near you at the infantswim.com address is really where you need to begin.
Final thoughts, Michael?
Well, I'm just so proud of Christina for what you've been through, and you're saving lives every day. And it's such an important message. Christina mentioned earlier, people think, well, hey, I can watch my kids 24 hours a day. And, we pick juries where jurors say that. We've had other jurors look at that juror going, where are your kids right now? And so it's something that no one wants to think about, but we have to think about to protect our children. And, it's just so important to take this message out to people. And I'm so proud of what Christina and her husband Jared are doing, and we're saving lives. So let's keep doing it.
Yeah, thank you. From one parent to another, Christina. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And as always, Michael, thank you for your time. I'm JP Hervis. Thanks to everybody for watching.